Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Today I'm going to share with you some guidelines to prepare presentation slides for final VIVA VOCE. As a PhD student or master by research student, this session is the most important session. This session may make you, or this session may break you. In my brief academic career, I have had opportunities of attending many VIVA VOCE sessions as an external examiner, internal examiner, as a supervisor, and as chairman to facilitate the session. And I have witnessed almost all candidates crying after the session, crying with joy and crying with sorrows. The final draft that we submit for final VIVA VOCE may have some weaknesses. And as we all have seen it, after submission, we realize some mistakes are there, errors are there, and many weaknesses are there. But a good presentation slides, which is creative, innovative, convincing, attractive, may help you to overcome the weaknesses that you have in the draft. The draft that you have submitted may give the first impression to the reader. And in marketing, we say first impression is the last impression. But again, there is another one, we say it in marketing, the last impression is the lasting impression. So if you do very well during the final VIVA VOCE session, you may overcome the weaknesses you may have in the draft that you have submitted. So today I'm going to share with you two of my students' slides. I felt that those two slides are very good to share with you and will give you some clues to prepare innovative, convincing, attractive slides for final VIVA VOCE session. Let me share with you the first one. This student basically has done a study on corporate social and environmental responsibility reporting, CSER reporting. And this student highlight was definitely the moderating variable, and wherever she has two moderating variable. Let's see the outline of her presentation. She started with background, then objective, research question, then research problem. If you have seen my earlier video, she has presented her research problem first, but here, research question and objective first. This is the final VIVA VOCE session. And she continued the research framework. You may realize now that she doesn't have any section on literature review. Why she doesn't have it will be explained later as we go on. She started with her background of the study, highlighting the global and local issues that proved her case of pursuing a PhD research in this area. And then she continued with the research objectives. She has presented very nicely in an articulated way of three objectives and definitely highlighted the moderating objectives in two research objectives, followed by research questions. As I always insist that your research questions should be synchronized and aligned with the research objectives that we have presented. And then she has continued to research problem, and she followed VISA 2008. She presented by content theme, by knowledge type, and by analysis level. And that's how she is doing it. By content theme, she has given many citations, and she has proved that in terms of content, there are some gaps and the studies required. And she continued to knowledge type, whereby she claimed that most of the studies are either concentrated on macro or meso or micro factors. But in her case, she is integrating the three, and she has given many citations there. She has even presented a framework combining the three. And she has continued with the research problem on knowledge type by giving citation on the moderating variable She continues with the moderating variables because that's her contribution, main contribution of her PhD thesis. And then she continued with her contribution in terms of methodology. We've given many citations that proves that there are rooms for her to contribute in terms of methodology in this area. And then she has continued with the research problem in terms of theory. She talks about multiple theoretical perspective, potential theories, and least theories. And she has identified definitely the underpinning theories from this slide. We must remember that a PhD research, when we have a framework, it must be solidly founded with the support of a theory. And that's what we call underpinning theory. The theoretical framework must be underpinned by a theory. If you do not have a theoretical support of a framework, you may have trouble of defending the framework you propose. And then she continued with global regional findings. And then she proved that this kind of study has not been done in her premise in a developing country. And she is trying to prove that she does have contextual contribution in her PhD study. And then she presented the theoretical framework and continued with the scope of her study, very nicely presented. And then she presented the research approach by stages, and she continued with the findings. Here she did not present what kind of method she used. Is it STATA, is it PLS or SPSS? It's not been mentioned in her case. She felt that all of these are being mentioned in the draft, elaborated, explained, expanded in the written draft. So she had just presented her findings in the form of table, and she left it for question and answer, and she just concluded her findings or her research findings in a very simple 3 sentences. She continued to focus or highlight on recommendation, which is very important. Remember, in her case, from the beginning, she has proved that the knowledge gap, methodological gap, and contextual gap was there. And based on that, she has developed a framework. And now she has findings. And based on her findings, she is recommending to ask all the stakeholders. And this basically gives her the PhD. And she continues with the implications of the findings. She's again highlighting the implication from theoretical perspective, from empirical perspective, from methodological perspective, and from practical perspective. And then she continued with suggestion for future research. I have seen students have difficulty answering the question of what is your contribution in PhD. And definitely it has to be new knowledge contribution. I remember once I was sharing a session, I asked the student, what do you think? Why do you think that you are entitled for a PhD degree? And the student answered to me like this. He said, Prof, I have studied 5 years and I spend 10 hours to 12 hours per day. So I think I should be given a PhD. Then I told the student, what about a taxi driver who is driving taxis for 20 years and 10 hours per day? Can you give him a PhD for taxi driving? He said, no. I said, then why should you give you a PhD with spending 5 years and 10 hours a day? So definitely the focus is not the time that you spend. It's an academic degree. And you have to prove that you are worth of getting the PhD. And definitely it comes from new knowledge contribution. It may come from a theory, a new knowledge, new methodology, or new policies, guidelines for the context, the premise of your study. I strongly believe that these 2 samples would be very helpful for you, at least providing some clues to you to prepare presentation slides for final VIVA VOCE. I hope and pray that you would be able to prepare attractive, presentable, convincing, attractive, and creative presentation slides. And you will present it well, defend it well during the final Viva, and you will pass with the flying colors. Thank you. Now I would like to share another slides of a PhD scholar, which I think would be very helpful to you all to prepare presentation slides for final Viva Voce. This student has done a study on looking at farm value with financial and business risks. And the highlight was definitely contribution was moderating role of financial innovation. This particular student, again, the presentation is different from the earlier the presentation I've shown you. This student started with overview, whereby he has articulated very beautifully, established the storyline of his case, presented his significance of the study, theoretical as well as practical in the first slide. Then he straight went to literature review. I studied the dependent variable with key study citation with the research gap. He continued with independent variable, and he has all the key study citation and provided the research gap. Then he continued with moderating variable with key citation in the area with the research gap. And then he continued with his framework showing the theoretical aspects. He used prospect theory as underpinning theory being highlighted and shown the research gap there. And he continued with research question, research objective, measurement of variables, preliminary, descriptive description of the data. And he continued with presentation of findings here. If you compare with the earlier one, this student wanted to have the slide results in front of him so that it become easier for him to explain. These all are there, and you can see even the model being presented, and those are significant or not significant being highlighted and compared with findings of previous researchers together. That's how he has presented his results. The acceptance and rejection of hypothesis being presented in the modeling that he's developed for his study. If you see it, continue to see these, he continued with his findings, and this is the most beautiful slide, I think, in his case. He has identified the theoretical implications based on the findings he has, practical implications, as well as implications for policymakers. He does have also applications for farm value improvement. The farm is specific. So this is the most beautiful, the most attractive slide to me. His findings being summarized in a very articulated, beautiful way in one slide. This is very good. This gives him his PhD. He showed what he has come out with and how it's going to impact the society, the country, and the world at large. I strongly believe that these two slides that I have shared with you will provide some very useful clues to prepare slides for final VIVA VOCE. These two slides will be very helpful to find out what should be highlighted in your presentation slides and how can you be creative, attractive, innovative, convincing in the final VIVA VOCE sessions. If you have some weaknesses in your draft, remember, as I said at the beginning, the last impression is the lasting impression. Your slides are very good, you present it very well, and you defend your case very well in the VIVA VOCE session. You will be ending your journey of getting PhD study with a big smile. I hope and pray that you will be able to prepare very good slides, present it well, defend it well, and pass with a flying color. Thank you very much.